And we're live. Hello. Thanks for checking in on us again at Behind the Door. Right now, I have all kinds of people with me. Let's go start. We got writer Arthur Unk.
Hello.
There he is. And we have the voice actor for the story of Ice Station Bravo, David O Steele.
Well, one of the voices. Hello.
We have creator of the Gray Rooms, Jason Wilson.
Hello.
And I am Brian Black, also co-creator of the Gray Rooms. And finally, we're going to introduce our guest host who didn't have any trouble at all coming in here to go see us. His name is Mike Rigg. Hi, Mike, and how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great. It's good to be here. Finally, eventually, technology, yay.
Thank you so much for doing that. He likes steampunk, and his computer is definitely from the 1900s. So with that, I'd like to pass the torch over to Mike Rigg.
Well, thank you, first of all. And wow. The episode was phenomenal to begin with, but that's not really saying much because they've all been phenomenal. But I made notes hoping that I would have some questions. I have no questions, just a bunch of just a bunch of fanboy gushing, I guess.
That's how we do it, man. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
But you know what? But you know what? To start with the beginning, and I'll probably jump around because I've got notes on writing and music and just the sound. But the first thing that struck me was in the interview frame, the opening with the interview with Raymond. Something in the sound design really caught me. There was like a tearing sound, almost. It's almost like here's a scene of this guy in this interview, and the sound gave it great visual, and it's like I was there, but then there was this almost demonic tearing sound that came up every once in a while that kind of pulls it back to what it really is. I thought that was awesome. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm just, the sound design of the whole show is just amazing.
Appreciate that, man.
Sure. And my favorite comedic moment, hard to say that in a horror anthology, but right at the beginning, when we get into the room and Raymond is throwing up, and then it occurred to me where he just came from. Right. And I'm like, yeah, then it hit me and I got chills, and I'm like, you know what? I'd probably be throwing up too. But great moment there with saying, you're cleaning that up, and that cracked me up.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I really, some of these stories I have to follow up on with Raymond and Bob, and I kind of think to myself, well, the first thing I had to do was explain why the character in Fairy Tale didn't die at the end, and how that would impact Raymond for the next, when he, comes back, and how that's going to be explained. So I really had to think about it, and I was like, man, people are going to be kind of unsettled at the end of that story. So what would I do if that was me? And
yeah,
no, nobody wants to know now after I wrote it. But I think that I thought that throwing up was going to be the biggest thing out of that.
Oh yeah,
and I know Jason likes throw up sounds. We had a lot of fun with some of the other episodes. I think the arachnophobia one, there was some gagging and things.
It's all about the audio visuals. All about the audio visuals.
Right.
Yeah. Sound for this is really like a character unto its own. So I mean, it definitely deserves a mention every single time because the sound just enhances everything.
Right. And yeah, speaking of which, all of the interior of Ice Station Bravo, and even at the very beginning from the outside going in, it conveyed the cold. It conveyed the situation, what the base was like, hearing other voices. Now, the thing is, going into this, I only had the title, and that reminded me of a few things. Big fan of the White Vault and Station Blue.
Yep.
And The Thing. And I was thinking along something like that. I had no idea it would be all of those things in a blender with Aliens and The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, Arthur, bravo.
Thank you. It's I'm a big fan of anything action related. I'm a big fan of like 80s action movies, horror, all that stuff, and it just, the story on its own, you just take it at face value. I was like, I just want it to be in your face. I want it quick paced because it's coming from Sergeant Redding's point of view. And Sergeant Redding didn't always know what was going on. And I was like, why do I need to explain everything that what's going on when the character don't know what's going on? So that was kind of the approach I was coming from.
Oh, and that was a fantastic point of view too, because rather than giving us this omniscient view of the whole station and the backstory, and anytime that a story comes from the point of view of a character who doesn't know what's going on, it just pulls the reader or listener right along with it and puts you in that terribly frightening situation.
Well, the amazing thing about this is I give all credit to Brian for that one, because when I initially sent him the first draft, it was not like it was, and he's like, "Man, this story has good bones, but this is what I need from you." He gave me that directorial moment, and I just took it, and I was like, "Man, I wrote like 8 drafts," and then finally, 10 hours before the deadline, it just hit me. I scrapped the whole last draft and I rewrote the whole damn thing from start to finish in 10 hours. And I did some initial checks and then I sent it off to him and I felt good.
Good. Yeah, you should. It was amazing. Now, did you have a particular era in mind? You mentioned being inspired by 80s movies and adventure and action and things like that from that time. What would you say Ice Station Bravo was set in?
Closely, more. I was drawn on inspiration from everything, from The Thing to that dirty sci-fi horror that Aliens first brought us. Not that clean, pristine stuff, but just something dirty and alien. I love that. Zombies has been done to death, but I was like, how can I put a twist on it? So it was kind of like a little body snatcher type story that kind of got snuck in there on you. I was pulling from everywhere. Resident Evil, I had that in mind for the design of when I was thinking of how the station was designed. It's when they refer to the different levels. I was thinking of this, massive station just being built down, like a beehive down in the ground, where they had this body farm on the bottom floor, and it's just, you had to go down there and you don't want to. And, that's why I threw the Dante reference in there in the beginning, because it's kind of like their descent into hell.
Perfect. Yeah.
Kind of funny, man. I actually drew from the movie Aliens specifically when I was thinking about the sound design for this story. That was one of my all-time favorite horror movies of period. I love the Aliens. That's a great movie.
Oh yeah, Aliens. It's just great.
That's pretty much how Arthur sold the story to us too. He had told me whenever I had approached him about writing a story, he said, "Hey, this is what I want to do. I want to do something like Thing, Resident Evil, Aliens." And I went to Jason and I was like, "Wow, this is going to be great." And for the record, I didn't make him write 8 drafts. I only knew about 2. I'm not that terrible. So after Archie told me, he's like, man, I wrote like all these, and I was just like, wow. But yeah, he, you know, it was crazy because the first draft, you know, it had like a, you know, just it had, like you said, it had really good bones, and I just kind of wanted to focus more on Red's story, and I, you know, asked him if he was okay with that. And the thing is he sends me what you listen to right after that, and it was a huge difference. Like he said, it basically got rewritten, and it was fantastic. I mean, some people do revisions, and then some people do revisions, and this was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. Along those lines, David,
Hey.
how did you feel when you first got the script and looked into the character, and what were your thoughts as far as how you were going to voice the character?
I was excited about it for sure. The story was well written. The narration and the actual voicing of the character was cool too. I've done some narration, so I felt like that was the easier part. And then actually, I was telling Arthur about it on Twitter. We kind of back and forth, and I said, you know what? Listening to it now, I wish I could go back again and redo some of the lines and get more into the character. Because after hearing it, man, with the soundscape, I'm like, oh my god. And with the and I did it by myself too, just reading the lines. So there's a difference when you get to hear the other people's lines reacting to you.
Mm-hmm.
It puts you in that world. So I really I want to go back and redo the lines, but it was just so well written, and even just reading it, it was fun. And you know, props to Arthur and Jason for the sound design. Just killer.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It was my opinion that David brought a whole new element to the character of Sergeant Redding, because I mean, it's just that's what you want your leaders to be, because I'm still in the military, and when the stuff hits the fan, you need that calm, cool, collected.
Right.
And I mean, it's just like he always seemed like he was in control there right until the end of the story, when, you know, things obviously progressed out of control. But it was just, he brought that element of just, yeah, all this stuff's going on, I got it, we're gonna get through this. Right. It was always, you know, that calm center.
Right. And I did take that. I did feel that, being in the military myself as well. So I felt that the leader, you needed to have that, so everybody's could just go run and, you know, go AWOL, just take off. And so you need to have that focal point of control where they feel calm, even when you're not. You know, he's scared to death, like, we're gonna die, you know. But okay, I got this. We just do what we're trained to do. Come on, we have the equipment. Let's do this. Until the end, like you said, in the end, it's like, you know, just fear kicks in and survival, you know, just running for your life. So,
yeah, you know, David's opening line in that really set the entire pace for everything.
That was, you know, epic.
I never really know what, you know, I have an idea just from reading the story where I kind of want to go with things, and being ex-military myself, I knew that I was going to go grandiose on this, that I was just going to do everything I could to just maximize the soundscape on this. But the second I heard David say, I don't remember ever being this cold, and the way that he delivered it, I totally agree with Arthur. The first thing I thought of was an old debt sergeant of mine, Sergeant Johnston. And it put me in that mode where I was able to draw from my old days of when I was in the Army, and I was able to take some from my training and being around my fellow soldiers. And David's acting really, well, his delivery, grabbed the steering wheel and drove the bus, and I just kind of made everything sound the way that he made it happen because of his delivery. So that's kudos on you, David. That first line you said, I was like, okay, I know where I'm going to go with this.
Wow.
All right, here's a little insight to that first line. When I wrote it, that was one of the original lines that I kept from the first script, because when I wrote that first draft, I was on a training exercise in Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, freezing my ass off in a tent underneath a blanket. I mean, just I had no light but the light of my laptop, and I was just sitting there clicking, and I was so damn cold that night. And that's the way I started the story. That's where Ice Station Bravo came from, because I was in this cold ass place. I just wanted to go home, and I was just like, man, that's a killer opening line. There you go. Nice. Thank you, Steve King.
I got to give you another side too, because you're talking about that. I was thinking about, when I said that line, the coldest time that I've been and was in the military as well. I remember we were on bivouac, and we're just standing in line, just all lined up, and we're just standing there forever waiting to see what we're gonna do next. And it's
hurry
just
up and wait.
freezing cold. Oh man, we just got up, we're freezing out in our little freaking tents. It felt so warm. It felt so good. Yeah, it was that cold. That helped.
Wow.
Tales from the field.
Well, I mean, hey, as someone who hasn't served in the military, first of all, everything you guys just said rang true. It had, even though it was fiction and the situation was, I hope, never something that could come true. It had this atmosphere of realism from the military standpoint. And it wasn't just in the delivery, it was the whole the politics of the station when the troops who are off duty, the description of the and like you were saying about the calm way that a soldier in that situation who has been trained will handle that situation and take it from that standing point of there's a job that has to be done here, and I don't know what it is, but I'm going to take it one step at a time and do my duty. And also, thank you very much, all of you, for your service. That's something that's something that's not said enough.
Absolutely, rock and roll.
Yeah, and knowing too that I didn't know Arthur and Jason were in the military, and knowing the author Arthur was was in the military, it sheds a whole new light too on the story and the way he wrote it. So
I'm 17 years in, so I'm still going strong. I'm trying to hit my 20.
Nice.
You will, bro. You will. Come on, you got 3 more to go. Is what it
is.
Yeah,
I'm just biding my time right now. I keep counting the days. I tell you what. But here's another little caveat you guys may or may not have known or picked up on. But even though the character of Sergeant Redding was married, him and Smith may or may not have had a little thing going on the side.
No.
I'm just saying maybe.
Well, not anymore.
I mean, he didn't want to send her any emails. He's just like, oh, no messages. Well, forget you. I'm going to go and check out, Smith, Mama Bear, or whatever she's.
And I mean, and you don't know how many times I've seen that happen, where there's some of the looser moral soldiers, I should say, different zip codes, bro.
Mm-hmm.
This time there's different continents. So, I mean, hey.
Wow.
No comment.
God.
I don't know.
By the way, I've been with my wife over 20 years. Been happily married for 17. Never strayed once. Love you, babe.
Awesome,
man.
Kudos.
Well done, Arthur. Good job. Remember,
I survived that ordeal. That's why I've never made E7 yet. I haven't gotten divorced, and I haven't got my DUI yet.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh man.
Well done, Arthur.
Yes. Yes. Well done. Well done and well written. Now, taking it to the next step, the realism from the script and the way it was written, and going to the sound design. Now I'm speaking specifically about the special effects now, not the music yet. That's coming because I've got huge things to say about the music. But sound effects wise, the voices coming through the comms and the masks, the boots on the grate, the creatures, the weapons fire, the way the sound resonated in the corridors, you got the feeling of either constrained or open areas, depending on where they were. And you guys want to comment on the sound effects?
Before he tells you about how awesome he did it, I got to say too, when I first listened to it, I was like, wow. I mean, just from the beginning, man, that crackling, crunching of the snow.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my God. I was just listening on my phone. And I'm like, I have to listen to this again. I had to wear headphones. I came into the studio, put the studio headphones. It's insane how good it is. Yeah. So go ahead. How'd you do it?
Yeah, how'd you do it?
Man. Well, I mean, again, the first thing, it all came from your very first line, David. When I was listening to you, you said, I've never been this cold. And then you were talking about how you should have kept your security checks below ground. First thing I thought of, this guy's outside. So I'm going to make him, you know, I'm going to bring the outside environment. And then I work outside. I've spent a lot of time outside. So I'm like, okay, well, in Nebraska, when it gets cold, what's the biggest thing that sucks the most besides the cold is the wind. And if there's any way I'm gonna make somebody feel like the environment's freezing cold, I'm going to have howling, whistling, blowing wind. And well, snow's not quiet. Anybody who's walked through it knows it's really friggin' noisy. And then other than that, I knew that this was going to be a battle story and had multiple actors and actresses. Each one of them is carrying their own firearm. Maybe it may be the same brand of firearm, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they sound exactly the same. They all have their own little pitches and tones. And as far as with, you know, they're in a corridor, yeah, it's going to be boxed in. Are they in a room? It's going to have more echo. I just really listened to what David was saying, because I actually use David a lot to write out every scene. And I listened to how he was delivering it, space it out how I wanted to. And then I built the environment around how David was interacting with the environment or with the characters. And yeah, that was just pretty much, I closed my eyes and I just did like a virtual reality thing. And I kind of looked around, how would it look? How would it feel? And so that's why I went with it from there. And again, it all came from David.
Very cool.
Yes. Exceptional delivery is what made the soundscape easy to create, because he did such a wonderful job.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Definitely. And the sound design also helped to convey something else. Now, as I said at the beginning, my first thoughts were about things like White Vault and Station Blue and things like that. And the thing where you're delivered from the cover of the book, so to speak, the isolation of a base on a pole, far from humanity. And considering Project Frankenstein, that's where you'd have to have it, just in case something happened like what happened. But you have the
spoiler.
Yes.
No, you can spoil all you want. It's totally fine. You can. We're assuming people have listened to it, and that's why they're coming in to see how it was made.
It was a joke, Brian. It was a joke, Brian.
Well, you might not have known. I'm just saying.
It was a joke, Brian.
Oh my goodness!
So it was a joke, Brian. It was a joke. You heard the man. It was a joke.
Waiting for the text in the background.
Well, you know, there's something to be said about the way some people approach spoilers. Is it makes them want to go back and hear it if they hadn't heard it, because they're going to want to, you know. And from what, how could you not treat yourself to this writing and sound design and the acting and everything? Now, where the heck was I going?
Music.
No, before that, the isolation.
Yeah.
And then this will cycle back to the music easily. But the you have a setting that's isolated. When Redding goes into the base, all of a sudden you realize it's not 5 people and Kurt Russell. It's not just a handful of people who you know are going to be a body count, like, you know, 7 space tow truck drivers. It's a whole like community of soldiers, all with jobs to do and rank and hierarchy and all that, and entertainment and multiple levels, like you were talking about the different levels going down all the way down to the body farm. And so isolated and then big, but it really crunches down to this tiny little super isolated terror when you get to the point where Redding makes a comment about how the communications through the masks don't cut through the concrete. So you're really isolated in whatever corridor you're at, and you don't know what's going on with your fellow soldiers or anyone else on any level for that matter.
Yeah, Brian had me cut out the whole backstory of what happened to Bravo and Charlie Squad. So I'm just throwing you under the bus, guy. I'm just throwing you under the bus.
I'm going to be thrown under the bus a lot by the end of this episode, I think. No, but really, I mean, it's kind of neat because if he wanted to, he could always. He had different point of views going on with everybody in this story. My favorite is the part where he even had, if you remember, they were afraid of some kind of like corporate sabotage going on.
Yes. Yeah.
And there was actually, you know, a scene through the point of view of like a Dennis Nedry from Jurassic Park type character who was going in and kind of trying to steal that. So
yeah, there was also another plot line going on where not only were they trying to sabotage it, but there was another one trying to send data out. I mean, I had a lot going on in the first draft. So I had a lot of,
you cutting it down. I appreciate
I had a lot of background material to choose from, and there was like 35 characters. I mean, it was pretty crazy.
It was Game of Thrones, except in a space station.
And everybody died.
Yeah. The count rapidly went from 1, 3, 5, 20, all of them. Sorry, spoilers.
I was joking with Brian earlier when we were messaging back and forth through Messenger. I said, I think I hold the Grey Room's body count for killing the most voice actors.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but it was awesome.
And that one on the stairwell, that hit me the most. Listen to that,
that was a fun scene to write.
Oh, that hurt.
Yeah.
And funny enough, some of the characters that were in the story are people that I work with, because I promised I'd put them in a story and I would kill them. And I said sorry, not sorry. So Hardy is an actual person that I work with. Hargrove is an actual person I work with. Those are people I work with, and I'm like, I'm killing you in a story.
You know what,
it's
man?
going to be worldwide.
I wondered if you did that, man. I was listening to this, and I was like, I wonder if these are actual people, if these are based on real people.
Oh yeah,
good job.
I tried getting Hardy to record his original line. It was just that one. Line. Hey Sergeant, you better get up here fast. And he wouldn't do it because he didn't believe this was going to be made into a thing. I'm like, you missed out, bro. You could have been famous. So I recorded the line.
Yeah, that was Arthur.
Nice.
For those who didn't know.
Nice.
Awesome. That was Brian's idea, by the way. Brian was like, "Hey, man, I think we should ask Arthur to do this. That'd be kind of cool." I was like,
yeah. Oh, definitely. Now, going back to the music, which is kind of it's both the bass that held it all together and the icing on the cake. And the thing that I noticed, the music in all the Grey Rooms has been fantastic and appropriate, and it causes chills and feeling, winding the acting and the writing together. But in this one, there was such a span. From the very opening, with that epic orchestral explosion from the very opening scene, you can't hear that and not visualize credits coming up on a film and the title. Just the scope of it, really.
Yeah.
And then when it comes down to the station and we begin all of the interactions between soldiers and officers and everything else, the military cadence sound that was moving through that. And when it hit the fan, one thing that struck me, and I'm a huge Stanley Kubrick fan, but there was an element in there that was so Overlook Hotel that I could not listen to it in the dark. It was creepy. And then it just went from there. But the levels of music tied in so well.
I actually thought that the story that I wrote was just thrown in there with Raymond's story, and then that great song by Mike Lee. I mean, that was just phenomenal. David, what did you think when you walked into that lobby or that lounge? I mean, what did you think when you first heard that? Because I was blown away.
Oh yeah, man! When that song, because you hear the lyrics as I'm walking in, I'm not talking yet, and you hear the beginning of that song, and it's just it tells the whole. It's like a story in itself. You know, it's something in my head. I forget that first line, but this in his head, and I'm like, oh my god, that's like, I really thought that was written for this story.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, you know, because that's when he has these things speaking to him. Like, holy crap! And it just sounded so good. You could hear that it was almost like a club you're coming into. So it was that social area, and then you know, and then how we kind of walked away and started talking. It dropped a little bit in the background, but it kept playing, and it was so cool too that you played the whole thing at the end of the episode for people to listen to. It was just spot on. Yeah, props.
That was that was a last minute addition, man. Like originally there were 2 other songs, just stock music songs I had found for that. And then Mike Lee had sent me that song asking me, you know, hey, if you ever want to use a song of ours, we would greatly appreciate it. And honestly, this story was a lot of money. Well, if I wouldn't have signed up for a membership through Audio Jungle to just get these downloads, the sound effects and everything, this was probably gonna be an expensive story to make. So I was like sitting here thinking, like, how can I save some money? I have to save some money, you know. And I heard this song, and right away the 2 things that stuck out to me was, well, 3 things actually. One, it's a Grey Room's author. He's a creator, and he has another great, wonderful project. How in the hell can I be a part of this and bring light to it? Oh, I'll put it in a story. It reminds me of like Queens of the Stone Age, and I love the grunge 90s kind of feel. It reminds me of that. And then, like you said, David, all in my head, it just, I don't know, it just sounded right. It sounded like it would fit. So I pulled those 2 songs out. I dropped it in there, and actually I took them. I had to mix down the original story and separate it to be able to include those just opening lines, the beginning of it when you're walking in, and just give it kind of like an interlude. And an intro for him. I actually had to, I don't know if you heard it at the end, but I actually had to edit that down, cut out pieces and make it work a little bit better for time. But I don't know, the second I heard it all go together with the background fading in, and I was like, yep, this is supposed to be here. This is supposed to be here. And then it's Mike Lee, who's a great guy. He's a talented author, and he's definitely a talented musician. And I'm a little bit of a sucker for musicians because I was one for a billion years. It would be wrong of me to not put that out there for everybody to hear, being that he donated that to the story so everybody could enjoy it and listen to it and the element that it was. So All in My Head by Broken Machines. If you haven't heard it yet, you need to.
Oh yeah, go check it out on Spotify. Get that man paid. He deserves every cent.
Yep.
Broken Machine, right?
Broken Machines,
machines,
and
the way the music, I don't know if you were going to talk about it, Mike, but the music that was set the scenes, you felt that, you know, all the different songs, it changed, you know, as the story progressed. It was just perfect. It was just right on. And from the other, I've listened to every episode you put out, and this one just seemed to be different in that sense with the music. Every part of the story just was dialed in tight with that music. It was great.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that final scene. Yeah. Outstanding. The final scene where they say the last 3 lines, which were among one of my favorites in the story, the way it ended with that kind of chorusy background where he was kind of transcending and just, I mean, it was like he was floating above the station, and he went into that, one of my favorite lines. He said it descended into a proper hell, meaning like fire and brimstone. And that was kind of like a counterpoint callback to when he was mentioning Dante in the beginning. So it's like, this is a proper hell, the fire and brimstone.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. Wow.
Oh yeah, this story. I'm telling you, there's one big secret that I have not told anyone about this story yet. And the moment you guys want me to reveal it, I will. But there is one big secret that will totally change the way you see this story. I mean, 100%. No one's even guessed it yet.
We'll do it now.
Yeah.
Don't make us wait.
Oh, well, I mean, some people like to wait. You know, it's a form of torture. I mean, we got to ask the warden if it's okay. Is the warden approved?
Yes.
If the warden says yes, I'll go, but he's keeping me under lock and key. See, I got the key. If you want me to open the door, I got the key to that secret.
Oh, nice.
He's waited all day for this.
All day. I've been waiting for 2 weeks. Ever since I told Brian, I was like, hey, I got a big secret I haven't told anyone. He's like, oh no.
Well, I think you asked me, and I told you I wanted to wait, right? Because I could have heard.
Yeah.
You would have told me.
Oh no, I wouldn't have told you anyway. I would have made you wait.
Sure.
So there's the reason why we need to just hang on to it a little bit.
Well, I hold a top secret security clearance. I'm good at keeping the secret.
Man, I thought I was doing good saying no. Here I am, man.
So whenever you're ready, let me know.
I'm ready.
We'll get to that point.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Everybody is ready.
All right.
In my mind.
I can wait a little bit.
Okay.
But
when
hold
Jason's
on.
ready.
Hold on. I have been asked to guest host. As the guest host.
Pulling rank.
Ooh.
Unless
that's a twist.
Unless Jason
You're fine.
doesn't want to.
All right. The true meaning behind Ice Station Bravo.
All right, kill the script. Kill the feed. Kill the feed.
I'm just like, boom.
And it's over. I wrote it initially just as this surface story. I wanted it in your face. I wasn't trying to hide anything. The things that are out there are out there. But then all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to add some. I'm an English major. I'm going for my master's degree in literature and English with a focus in creative writing. So I'm like, how can I add some subtext? How can I use some of these things that I've been learning, use my education a little bit, get my money's worth for my degree, right? Mm-hmm. So I started layering in little things. That's why I layered in maybe there's something going on between Red and Smith, because that's things I've seen on deployment. I wrote the story while I was on a training exercise. The story as a whole is really very personal for me because it's like an allegory of when I was deployed, because I was far away from home. I was isolated from my family. I couldn't go back. Communication was spotty. And these situations would just happen on deployment that I had no control over, but I had to react to. And in the end, towards the end of my deployment, I actually ended up getting injured. So I had a retaining wall pulled down on top of me, which essentially the old me died and a new me had to begin anew. I had to learn how to walk again. I almost had my life completely changed forever. And I was like, what a cool way if I could just incorporate this into a story. So when Red dies at the end from this thing that he could not prevent, he did everything right. He did everything he could possible all the way up until the end. Out of nowhere, you're like, oh man, he got bit, and it's just like when I got crushed, I was like, oh man, I'm underneath 2,800 pounds of concrete. There's nothing I can do about it. My life is forever changed. So the whole story is really just an allegory of when I was on my deployment in Iraq. And it was kind of like therapeutic for me in a way to write it, because it was just like getting some stuff out. Because I do suffer a little bit from PTSD with anxiety, and it's just getting that stuff out there. It just felt good to get it out, and then to wrap it all in a story, and then just seeing the looks on people's faces I'm like, I got one more bomb to drop for y'all. Check this out. Boom. So it kind of puts the story in a different light when you look at it from that way. Because if you go back and listen to it again, which everybody should go back and listen to it again, it's me on deployment. Bad things keep happening, and I'm constantly having to react to these horrible, horrible situations.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
right on. That's fantastic. Again, what we were talking about earlier, it just brings more light to that, you know, knowing that you serve and that your experience made that story. So it just makes that story so much more alive. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone's support, and it's just, like I said, it just felt good to get out.
And thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, they always, I mean, I studied English and literature in college as well. And Arthur, I'm sure you know this, but they always say, write what you know. And it really does, when you pull from that kind of experience and emotion, it really shows in the writing. And since you're already coming to the table with writing talent, it just adds so many more dimensions to it and just brings it alive. So,
I write what I know, but I also write who I am, which is a phrase popularized by Chuck Wendig, which his book, Damn Fine Story. Any writer out there, go pick it up. It's worth it.
I know it. Yeah.
But yeah, I write who I am, and I'm not trying to front anybody. I'm not trying to pretend to be somebody I'm not. This is just me poured out on paper. Love it or leave it.
Nice. Very cool.
And you could tell, I think, because the real good authors, you know, that you can tell there's an experience, even though it's made into a fantasy. You know, obviously we don't have those Frankenstein monsters, you know, but but they are, you know, you still have these demons and these things, whatever it is in your experience that you're putting down on paper, and then you know, Jason and Mike are helping to put that into this story, you know, with the sound and the effects, and just that's awesome.
Well, another thing, when I was writing the story, I wanted to write it in such a way where I'm like, okay, this is my story. I'm handing it off to you. Do what you want with it. I gave no direction. I was like, I don't even want to know any inputs or anything unless it's like a gender question or something like that. But I was like, I was really happy where the voice actors chose to be themselves for the most part. Whenever I've seen Sarah on here, I mean, the voice that she used for Smith is the same voice I heard her when she's, you know, doing the interview stuff. You know, nobody really had to come up with a voice different than their own. And I thought that was so cool that everybody just got a chance to kind of be themselves, which is also relative to the military experience. Bad things start happening. It's regular people in extraordinary situations. And I was just blown away by the voice actors because they were able to take it wherever they wanted to. And I was like, this story is no longer my own. It belongs to the world. It's a community story now.
Very cool.
That's great. Now, Arthur, how did you feel when you heard it? I mean, since like you just shared with us the secret and what this was based on, how did you feel when you heard it the first time coming alive without that direction?
Right.
Oh, I was just I went into it just like I do a movie that I think I'll like, but I don't know. I'm like, I'll give it a chance. I'm going to go into it with an open mind. I have zero expectations. Let's see where it takes me. And I stepped into it, and I was just the Raymond story had me in stitches, and we got to see a little bit more background in that. And I was like, Brian writing that, I was like, Brian is phenomenal doing what he's doing. Yeah. The play between Jason and Graham is just phenomenal. And then it transitioned into my story. And right from the beginning, my first reaction, as soon as I heard I've never been this cold, and then it went into that big epic open, I was like, holy shit, this is real.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was hooked right from there. The rest of it could have been done in a different language and I wouldn't have cared. And I was like, this is awesome. I don't know what's going on, but this is awesome. And my absolute favorite part, the dot matrix printer sound in the background in the very beginning. That is totally the military experience because we have all this money and budget for all this cool stuff.
No money on nothing.
There is a damn dot matrix printer right there. I'm like, that is phenomenal. I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah, it's the little things like that that make a good audio drama just pop. You know, there's things that in your side of your ear, and you hear that stuff in the back that just adds to that full immersion. So cool.
Yeah, there's a couple questions in the YouTube. One is Arthur, did your story affect your emotions while you wrote it, or after, or did you have no emotion whatsoever?
When I was going through writing it, most of the emotions that I was going through when I was writing it were physical, because I was actually physically cold when I was writing it. I was in a miserable place when I was writing it. I was on a military training exercise, so I was pulling from all these experiences while I wrote, especially that first draft. And then by the time I got to the end of it, I had read it so many times, I was sick of it. And then it was just like a moment of inspiration hit me. And emotionally, when I wrote that last draft, I was like, it was just like a release for me. And I was just, it felt cathartic, and it was just so awesome.
It was definitely pretty hardcore when he's sending me DMs on Twitter, and he's like, yeah, I'm in this tent and I'm writing this story. I mean, how hardcore is that? I go back to Jason. I said, Jason, this guy's like saying he's, out there doing his military exercise in a tent and it's freezing and he's writing a story about it. Like, so It was pretty cool. We were definitely really excited for that. Thanks, man. I mean, that was, one thing that we think about is I was going around talking to people on Twitter that I didn't really know too well. I just started, I think, talking to Arthur, and I was like, hey, do you have any stories, that you might want to send to the Gray Rooms? And
I told him yes, but I didn't.
Like, yes. But it was good. He was telling me, he was updating me on what he was working on, and it was great. But it's amazing because, a lot of these people, we just kind of are getting to know them after we ask them to write the stories for us, and all of these cool little backgrounds and things. And some of the stuff we don't even know until we have them with the behind the door. So it's just fantastic.
I was waiting for him to say, I just need your bank account number, and I got $10,000. I'm a Nigerian prince.
Yeah. Speaking of like just getting to know people, Mike and I have known each other online for a few years. Since I started podcasting, we both have RPG podcasts that we've been on for a while, and we've chatted back and forth. We shared promos. And so when I found that he was going to be hosting this, I was like, wow, that's super cool. I get to finally meet face to face. What's up, Mike?
Hey.
Oh, yeah. I was just up in Chicago today. I was like, man, I wonder if I could get his address and just like show up to his studio. And like, hey, what's going on? I found this weird guy, standing outside my door.
We need to do that sometime. We need to get a guest host, find out where they live, and just
show up,
come knocking on their door and be like, hey.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you're welcome to come here, Philadelphia.
Then we find out who's wearing pants and who isn't.
Hey, you're the one in bed, man.
This is where the magic happens. What can I say?
So he's not wearing pants.
Wait, hold on.
That's what I got.
Hold on.
This is where the live stream gets cut. YouTube.
Hold on. One picture just immediately came to mind. He's in bed wearing a red hoodie.
Oh yeah.
I think that answers the question as to whether or not he's wearing pants.
Well done.
No.
Well done. Well done, Arthur.
If life is going to imitate art, yeah.
There's another question. There's another question for Dave, and that's if he's going to be ever coming back to help us out in future episodes.
Yeah, well, I'm always up for some good stories, so it's totally up to these guys that and the warden, of course, if the warden allows it.
And then Arthur, there's another question. Have you ever written like death or horror themed stories before?
Yes, I've actually. My specialty is writing. There's lots of interesting things going on in my house. You'll have to excuse that for a second.
Is that Ms. Hood? Oh, no, you're Ms. Hood. Is that?
No, that's my son. Who gave me the epic review when I let him listen to my story. I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But man, I almost forgot my question here. What was the question?
Horror or death themes.
Oh, horror or death related. Yes. I write what are called drabbles, which are basically 100-word stories. They have to be exactly 100 words. and I've been published probably about 14 or 15 times on horrortree.com. It's an online horror magazine. I've also co-authored a short story for them called Misery and Chaos, which actually involved a guy who thought that he killed his wife and shoved her in a trunk and all sorts of fun stuff. But if you go to my website, arthurunk.com, and you go on published works, you can find anything and everything I've written on the web. I got my own blog. I'm doing a writer series right now, basically on how to leverage your Twitter account as a new author. So, I mean, I've done all sorts of stuff. Draw a lot of influence from H.P. Lovecraft, draw a lot of influence from Dean Koontz, Stephen King, Clive Barker. You know, you got to study the masters to be like the masters. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool.
Tiger Woods.
Oh. I went to a driving range once. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I've played mini golf. Does that count?
Yes, sir.
I received I think I received golf clubs or something when I was a kid, and I was very sad.
Oh, yeah. Back to my son and his review of my story, which you can hear him getting ready for bed now. Sounds like a herd of elephants. But we sat down as a family with my wife and son as soon as it came out, and it ended with the song and everything, and I hit stop and I was like, so what do you think? And my wife's like, yeah, that's pretty good. You did a good job. They did a lot of good stuff with it. And I looked over at my son. I was like, what did you think? He goes, well, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. I was like, oh my God, I can't impress this kid. You know, I help create his life, and he gives me mediocre reviews. So say la vie.
Well, at least he writes his reviews, you know, as a part of him.
Oh yeah,
he's very true.
I was like, just wait till my next story. It's going to be about a little kid.
Great.
Yeah.
No, we can't use that. Yeah. We can't do it after. No more kids.
Yeah,
no more. That's right. We're banned.
Right. Rad. That's
no
awesome.
Kids. No more kids.
Yeah. There's
we
some
have disclaimers
there.
now. Whatever. It is what it is.
Yep.
Wow. Are there any other questions, Brian? I don't have YouTube up here.
Nice.
Christina's like, she's got all kind. Well, actually, here, let's go with Charlotte. So you got a question for Arthur. Will you be submitting something for? Everybody wants to know if everybody's coming back.
Oh, absolutely. I got I have about 4 stories that I'm debating on sending in. And when I was talking with Brian, I was like, I got these really good first drafts. He's like, just send it to me when it's done. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I want to send something in, but you know, I do have about 3 or 4 stories. I'm just getting all this military and life stuff out of the way so I can tighten them up and get them to them. Hopefully they make the cut. It's definitely a different direction than Ice Station Bravo. It's a little more psychological horror. A little more. One of them is a Lovecraftian type horror. So you know, we'll see what happens and what gets approved.
Just
that'll be sweet.
To us.
Nice.
Yeah.
Come on down.
I want to mention before it slips my mind again. Why don't you guys say a little something about the other actors who aren't with us here?
Oh yeah.
I wish that Graham and Sarah were here and
Victoria.
Yep.
Yep.
Why don't you guys go ahead and tell me what you thought of their performances and how they came to be.
And can I sign up for the rights? Can I sign up for the rights to all the future stories that Arthur puts in? To be those actors.
Yeah, if I may, one of the things that I wanted to definitely point out is that this story here, like when I first started this, I literally posted at a college arts program. We were looking for voice actors and stuff. I went and hit Craigslist. I didn't know what I was doing. And Will Olson is amateur, extreme amateur, but he lives here locally. He played the part of, is that Howard? Yeah, it was Howard. He played the heart of Howard that got bit, and he was the one who was turning on him later. And
yeah, that was your first hint that something was awry.
Yeah, he actually came and recorded his lines at my house, and I got to meet him and talk to him, and it was a lot of fun working with him. That was his first thing he's ever done. So I talked to him on text message and everything a little bit after it came out, and he was really happy he was blown away at the fact that the very first thing that he got to do was something that was produced at such a scale as it was. And then everybody else, David O Steele, I can't sit here and tell you enough about how wonderful he did. All you have to do is listen to it. He really, really, he made the story what it is. Sarah Ruth Thomas, she's a staple. She's a regular, and we love her. She's an absolute gem of a talent. Again, just listen to what she does. Victoria Wan, she's a gem. I mean, and Patrick Mealy, he played the part of Yella, and he did such a great job. That was actually him screaming when he was doing the character pulled down over the. That was his real scream.
Dude,
and
that
actually,
was phenomenal.
He's gonna be in a story coming out this Friday too, called Hunger Pains. He does a great job. I look forward to doing more stuff with him in the future. And a person and Arthur did a great job too. I know Brian said, "Yeah, we should have Arthur in here. Let's get it done." I said, "Yeah, that's a great idea." And Arthur did a good job. And but one person that was in there that really wanted to be there and did a great job was Charlotte Norup. She was the queen bee and that mixture of voices, which, by the way, that was Brian's idea, to take everybody and just have them say that line and then just kind of pan it out, add effects and all that other jazz to it. So, yeah, it's too bad not all of them are there, but could you imagine if we had the entire cast? That's there. Yeah. And then I can never tell you, I can never say enough about Graham. He's a phenomenal voice actor.
I felt so bad for Graham's character because everybody thought that Lieutenant Gasper was the bad guy, and actually he was just an ass. I mean, and he pulled off that smug, confident, I know what's going on type thing, and then even when the world's falling down around him, he's just like, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I know I'm cooler than everybody, even when I'm dead. Whatever.
Yeah, you know what? Going back to what you said before, Arthur, I have to ask then, where you said where these characters were inspired from, was there a gloom, or is there a gloom that you know?
It was just really an amalgam of just every bad lieutenant that I've ever had. Because it's
Roger that, sir. Roger that.
You know, it's just one of those things where it's like, you just want to get in and get out, and it's like, where do they pull these guys from? You know,
any O grade for the most part. I think they should be E first before they go to O, and then
definitely
then things work.
Especially in line units.
Oh man, well, yes, right. And I was an MP, and it seemed to be that the best officers I had were the ones that at least went up to 6, and then they went off to and then they went off to OCS, so they converted over, and they put their butter bar on, and then they became lieutenants. They were great guys. So hats off to all servicemen and women out there who were enlisted and went officer. We love you. Everybody else, whatever. And I did want to say too, it was an absolute honor to get Aaron Lillis from the No Sleep podcast to perform in this. That was a surprise to me. Graham reached out to her and she did it. So,
and what part did she do?
She's
in Raymond's story.
She's the interviewer in the Raymond story.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
and she's actually going to be coming up here as a big part in one of our patron stories called "Fix Me," written by Lachlan Watt. She does an absolute phenomenal job on that. So if you want to hear that, you got to be a patron. It's a paywall.
All right. We also have next Friday the twofer, and we're going to have a lot of familiar voices. We're going to have David O Steele as a part.
Yes, sir.
What?
Mike Rigg has a part.
Yay.
Hey.
Aaron Lillis has a part.
Yep.
Jason has a part.
Just small one. Just small
one. Arthur is gonna.
Nope, I'm going to be in the chat room again. So.
Oh, come on, Arthur. I love you, man.
I'm good with that.
Every time we've done it behind the door, there's always been, the couple people that are always there. Arthur is one of them. He's always there. He's always cracking jokes. He's always talking about things. Charlotte's always there, even though it's like 3 a.m. I've noticed Bo's there. Christina Wilson's been there.
By the way, Mike, Christina wants to be a voice actress on your podcast. So she says, let her know what she needs to do.
I will make a note of that right here.
Uh-oh. Well, if anything, I can promise it will be a very clean and clear, high quality production.
Oh, I know. I think I actually have received, her name is familiar, so I'm sure I've received an audition for something. No, when I started my show, when I launched that, I just went on Twitter and said, I'm looking for voices. And I was aiming for maybe 5 or 6. The story was just fleshing out. And I got over 120.
Wow.
And the thing that just blew me away was, and I didn't look up any of these people and just went with the ones that came to the top, and basically for the voices that I was looking for, not so much, a resume. And then when I found out later that names like Graham and Sarah Ruth and Victoria were in there, and then following their career after I chose them, it's like, why the hell did you guys want to be on in my production?
Right?
Yeah.
Dude, I released a trailer and I got an email from Graham and he was like, hey man, I'd like to talk to you about maybe doing something. I said, that's great. But I'm doing this on my kitchen table at that time.
Right.
I don't have any money because he gave me a rate sheet. And I said, I can't pay you, buddy. And I said, when I start making money, maybe we'll talk. And then he sent me an email the next day. He's like, just send me a damn script. Okay, I get it, Graham. I get what you're saying.
Right. So. Right. And you know what? I'm sure David will attest to this as well. When I started, I had the actual play, the role play story podcast, and he was such a phenomenal inspiration to me, as well as answering any questions I had and whatever. And that's when our kind of pod brotherhood kicked off. But the community of other people who were doing what we were doing, not a single troll or bad apple or any of that. And now that I'm getting into producing an audio drama, the voice actors, the fellow producers, it's like we live in a community where no wrong can happen. It's everybody is just so amazing and wonderful, and yeah, it's just great to be part of it. And when you guys, when you invited me to be on here, I was like, me? Why? But it's great. I love it.
Welcome to the family, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
Also, I wanted to mention too that somebody who should get credit in this, but didn't yet, is J.M. Scherf. JM didn't actually write anything specifically for the episode. He, however, sent me a piece of his stock music because I had heard it, and I said, dude, this will fit right here in this part. And he said, here you go. So he actually bit the cost of that and sent it over. And what that song is when you hear the body start to rise and you hear that calm, a metal beat, that metal music in the background.
Yes. Yeah.
That's off of his website. It's called Futuristic War. I cut the crap out of it and I did what I wanted to do with it, but that's from J.M. Scherf, which, by the way, if I may, I just heard today, Mike, Brian, David, everybody, I just heard today J.M. wrote the music to this upcoming episode I won't mention about, that you guys were all in. And let me tell you something. This is gold. It is gold, man. He did such a good job on it. It's Flippin' hilarious. I listened to it probably 20 times in a row.
Did you post it? Did you post it?
In my folder.
Oh,
yeah. I'll move it over, man. I'll let you hear it. It's really good. You got to hear it, Brian. It's really good.
You know, he can't get me anymore because I wrote all the intros for Raymond and Bob. So now I don't have any more aces up my sleeve. He can be as mean as he wants. Although I do have the Warden episodes.
Yeah. That's true.
Oh, man. I love it.
Wow.
By the way, we were talking about Graham, and I love that haiku the way he read.
I was just
yes.
Yes.
That was the best. I was really worried. I thought, are people gonna like this? Like, you know, and when I listened to it, then he made like a little Instagram like video with that, and oh man, it turned out really well. And then, you know, the Warden's response to it, or not the Warden, but Raymond's response to it there, Jason, that was great too.
Oh yeah,
that was some fun.
It's just like, no, I'm loving the whole Bob Raymond relationship, how it's developing. It's just like it's starting to become almost sibling-esque.
And then it's when Graham he lets him go in the door, right? He finally goes in, and then he says, "Man," you know, he responds again about the haiku. He's like, "I thought it was pretty good." Like, that was so funny.
Oh yeah.
Bob's butt hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. The last moment, I don't think that we've touched on yet about the story. There was actually a unintentional fourth wall break in the story that both Brian and I picked up on, but I don't know if anyone else did. When it transitioned from the lounge into the next day, you just hear David say chapter 2 the next day. And I was like, oh shit, I forgot to delete that. But it was just such a perfect fourth wall break because it just it reached out and it grabbed the listener and just drew him in by saying, hey, I know you're listening to this. Come along with us. And it brought him in. And it was just it was perfect. It was unintentional but perfect.
I thought it was perfect too. And then there was that you had a pause there. You left some dead space. That was sweet. And you're sitting there waiting, and then boom, the next thing starts. It's like, oh
and it's just it was just everything was so loud, and then it's just like quiet, and then you hear alarms, and it's just like, oh crap.
Right.
There's also an epilogue that we cut out.
Most definitely, yeah. You find out the real source of what was going on about how the guy who actually runs Dark Star, who's an evil bastard named Damian Childs, actually intentionally let these alien spores loose in the station just to see what would happen. It didn't happen the way that he thought, so he just ended up basically destroying the whole station. Like, that was neat. Because you hear, you know, Lieutenant Gasper say, you know, someone initiated Protocol 0.
Remotely,
and you know, everyone's like, what's that? Well, Damian Childs is this rich a-hole that lives on a space station orbiting the Earth. And he's just like, meh, I'll just blow this up. I got like 5 more, whatever. Dark Star will cover it.
Wow.
Man, those Dark Star guys.
Yeah, they're just pulled a little bit from, if you ever played the video game XCOM, pulled a little bit of that whole overworld government mentality type thing, how there's just some rich dudes out there with way too much money and time on their hands.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, I think that the best thing about this too is that I don't think there could have been and this is probably gonna sound fanboyish for me, but so be it. I've listened to the voice enough. I actually fall in love with the delivery of these actors, but I don't think that this could have had the proper impact without David. I think that David was the perfect choice for this part because his cadence was excellent. I love his voice. I love the accent too. I think that it's an authenticity in the voice. And it's powerful too. You have actually kind of like this. You kind of have a very firm, little bit raspy, kind of a powerful delivery there at times. It sounds really good and clear.
It was like a very serious Nathan Drake. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah, I don't think that this story could have been as good, honestly. I think that all the right pieces were in the right spot, and it all started with David. So he needs a lot of credit there.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
absolutely.
Extremely well done.
You're a hero in my book, David. You could have saved the station. I know you could have.
Alternate ending.
Right. No, yeah, like
Yeah, he was actually wearing his body armor as it's written in the reg, and he didn't get bitten.
Yeah, prequel, side stories, follow-ups. Let's do it. Yeah, that's one of the other things that was cool about it. And based on some of the things that you were saying, Arthur, it's almost like it was a byproduct of the editing and the redrafting that you did and had to do. But I think that actually helps to credit it, because you really do get a sense of several much larger stories going on, and it makes you wonder where this character came from, that character came from, where they were going from, where the base came from. But you get a feel that there is that larger world there, that it wasn't just an encapsulated story.
Yeah, show don't tell.
Right, exactly. Yes.
You writers know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So, wow.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe there's a Desert Station Charlie in the works. I don't know.
Ooh. Well, we're gonna.
Wait, I'm gonna have to go walk out in my kid's sandbox. So I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, yeah, I was in my cat's litter box to get the sound from.
Could we say that Redding had a twin brother there who sounds exactly like him?
His name's Sergeant Green.
Well, there's a Yella as well. So
yeah,
Yella, you know.
Then you just need a blue, and we've almost covered the color spectrum.
Well, then you go to Rainforest Foxtrot, and then.
What about Station Blue? Maybe we could talk to them, and we can build some kind of little crossover. You know.
Oh, yeah, I don't think this is
I actually like that name, Arthur. Rainforest Foxtrot or whatever. Yeah. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
Get it done. Write it. Let's hear it.
Yep. Putting it on my notes now.
Sounds like
the 17 others. Like the 17 other first drafts I have.
That's cool.
The art. Times. We should talk about the art, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, that art. Mm-hmm. The first image I saw, I first thought Expendables, because it had the beret, it had the big wings behind it, the gun. I mean, it looked like a unit crest or a flash you'd wear in a beret. Mm-hmm. And I was like, It looks like an Expendables logo, because, I mean, truthfully, we were bringing out the big guns from the voice cast. I mean, we had Graham, Sarah, David. I was like, this is like an Expendables movie for the Grey Rooms. I was like, that's perfect. And then the second piece of artwork came out, and I was like, oh, my God. Then the frozen gun in the snow, and I was just like, what's going on? It was great.
So who does that?
So we have Brooks Bigley, who's been kind of took over our social media and our advertising. He's been working really hard with Graham Rowett. Both of them have been actually getting the art and the rights to do it and working on that. They're the ones doing the teasers and kind of like those promotional things before the episode. The actual episode art is made by Cassie Petit. So, the one with the corpse just kind of laying there with everything that kind of sets the whole mood as to what's happening. That as well is so, I mean, we're really fortunate to have so many people with artistic talent kind of helping us out and, kind of spreading the news that, we have all these things on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and everything. It helped Jason and I out immensely, because before it was, kind of chaotic to kind of let everybody know and do everything. And, so we're definitely really happy to be able to have everybody helping us out.
Yeah. True professionals. Real nice.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all your artwork would look like what Jason looks like, just a dark room. Blob.
Is it Jason? Or is it the word?
Yeah, if it was Jason, I think it'd be our Grey Rooms logo for everything. So definitely.
It's like the worst profile picture ever for a dating site.
I'll take that. That's good. I like that.
I'm sure Christina will be happy about that.
By the way, Brooks does all that animation. So, like, when you see the artwork and it actually comes alive, that's Brooks Bigley doing that.
Fantastic.
He does a great job.
Cool.
Yeah, he does.
How'd you meet up with Brooks? Did he know you guys already? How did he get on board?
No, I think we started. He does. He used to do a lot of social media work with No Sleep Podcast. And so once we kind of started coming around and developing a little bit of a presence, we kind of got introduced to him. It might have even been through Charlotte.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So Charlotte kind of, introduced us to Brooks. Brooks was is also helping out with another podcast called Calling Darkness. He and Graham both. So they kind of ended up working together a little bit and knowing each other. And then we started talking to Brooks a little bit, and he was kind of giving us some ideas as to what we needed to do to kind of get more social media out there and get more people to know, more awareness of our podcast. And it just kind of ended up like, hey man, you want to help us out like all the time? You want to be a part of it? And he joined us, and that was very recent. We just had like a meeting with everybody kind of involved, so that everybody's on the same page, and it's pretty exciting.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm just putting it out there for Jason and Brian. If you guys need any help with anything, reading over stories or doing some last minute edits with stories or anything like that, or I'm available.
Sweet.
I'm just putting it out there. Anything I can do to help you guys. I mean, if you got this, you know what that means. I'm helping out in any way that I can.
Yeah, you're what he just showed right there, everybody. Is that's a top tier patron key. You only get that if you are a top tier patron. So you're helping in more ways than I could ever ask, Arthur.
Yeah,
you're helping.
I think I paid for my. I only got 3 more months, and I pay for my episode. So.
That was your birthday present, right? Like you asked, wasn't that? Unless I'm making this up. Did you say like something like you wanted that to be like your wife asked you like what you wanted for your Christmas, your birthday or something, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to.
Yeah, there's only unfortunately money's kind of tight sometimes, and there's only 2 things that I spend money on Patreon wise, and Gray Rooms is one, and horrortree.com is the other, because I love what both sites are doing. I've actually had dinner with the editor for the horrortree.com, and Stuart Conover is a great man. Loves writing horror, is really into comic books and sci-fi and all the nerdy stuff that I'm into. And you guys with the Gray Rooms have just welcomed me in like family. And I mean, it's just real recognizes real, and I want to be a part of this in whatever way I can help out in.
Oh, you did a great job, man. You gave us probably one of in my professional, I use that in quotes because I'm very amateur at this, but in my professional career, that is the most in-depth, layered story I've ever done. That was 162 sound effects. Last check, I can't remember the exact count, but there were 14, but I think it got down to about 10 different musical changes or overlaps. And then a bunch of ambient background drone stuff, not to mention all the audio. This was the biggest production I ever did. So you helped me with that. You taught me a lot. I actually learned a lot from Ice Station Bravo. I learned how to pan things out, make rooms sound different. Ice Station Bravo is actually, Graham said it would be my Waterloo. And,
I just imagine smoke coming from the computer as the processors just.
Oh, it was.
That's not too far from the truth, brother. That's not. I had to, in order to. There were so many things. I'm working off of a laptop, which I am realizing I need to upgrade significantly. But I in order for me to listen to this episode and to listen to it through, I had to mix it down, which took 35 to 45 minutes every time, and then put it into a player just to listen to it to go, oh man, I need to decrease the volume on this footstep, and go back and open the multi-track, decrease the volume, mix it down again. It sucked, but I learned a lot. I learned a ton.
If anything, you learned what not to do.
Well, that's all season 1 has been, actually.
I know. I would do the same thing. When I get my audio drama ready, and I would get it all done in the studio, speakers, my headphones, and I'd have to go out and I'd post it by my, to my own server, go out in the car, listen to it in the car stereo, just to make sure, because the sounds sound different. The sound effects that come up are different. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you got that right, man. I have a pair of Sennheisers headphones I listen to a lot of my final mixes on because, the Sennheisers are very high quality headphones. And for some reason, man, it was just driving me nuts, guys. I'll just be honest with you. I was pulling my hair out even days after the release because everything sounded muffled. Everything sounded wrong. I put these headphones on. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What happened here? And then I go and I put my earbuds in, these guys in. I'm like, oh, okay, that doesn't sound too bad. And then I put my iPhone ones in. I'm like, whoa, David's really loud. I'm like, whatever. Whatever. So, yeah. And then,
Yeah.
On to the next one.
Really well, man. I've never heard anybody say, wow, it sounded muffled. Nobody thought that.
Yeah,
Let's listen to it.
I listened to him on this Turtle Beach, and it sounded perfect.
Yeah.
Well, point of that was, yes, you are right. You need to go and listen to different things on different speakers. With that being said, never listen to a Grey Room episode on your phone, David.
Yeah. I couldn't wait. It popped up, a new showdown. I'm like, I can listen to it right now. I was in the bathroom just listening to it. No, I need the headphones. It's too good for that.
Yeah, there's one holding the phone at one speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a test for you.
It's terrible.
Yeah, never listen to a Grey Rooms episode through phone speakers. You need to have a good quality sound system because it is a binaural podcast with high definition audio.
Absolutely. So, you miss a lot of the world, the being part of it. It sucks you in when you have the sound in both ears. So yeah, for sure.
Again, man, it was an absolute pleasure. It was great working with all of you, and I do hope to be able to work with all of you again. It's actually nice to get to meet you, David, and you, Arthur, and you too, Mike. And to put faces to voices and to the stories. And this is one thing I do love about the Behind the Doors, that I get to actually meet you guys and to say, hey man, thanks a lot. Oh, and Arthur, you said you had, what was it, lunch or dinner with the guy from the other side? We're trying to get to PodCon next year. So if we're able to get there, come on out. You can have dinner. Heck, I may have a whiskey with you.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm there.
Yeah, that's right, bro.
You guys can all come too, by the way.
I'm only bringing so much whiskey, guys.
Oh man,
it's like old military joke. How many privates can you fit in the back of a 5-ton truck? He knows. One more. There you go. And with that being said, I think I just killed the mood. I just killed the mood. I'm going to put my stand-up career on hold, go back to writing stories.
Put your pants on first here, man.
Yeah, we stand up.
That's the punchline.
Well, if you really want to see what's going on here,
no.
Football pants. So there you go.
Is it over?
It's upstage the nipple.
Is it over? Did I miss it?
You missed it.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah, you're clear.
There was one more part you missed in that joke there, Jason.
I just had to turn my head. I wasn't ready for Big Jim and the Twins. I didn't need to be hanging out.
And the Twins.
No, just football.
Oh. Okay. Welcome to Behind the Door.
That's how we know it's about time to wrap it.
Yeah.
It's devolving.
Oh, man.
Well, all I can say is that we have a lot coming up here in the next 2 weeks, so be ready. It's going to be an absolute 1, 2, 3, 4, right, Brian? We got 4. The double feature, a whole bunch of crap come out next 2 weeks.
Well, let's see. We got the double feature
Friday.
Behind the Door will be next Friday. So that's public. You're gonna get to hear us again. The same thing, yay, on your podcast. You're gonna hear the 2-for-1. The story is gonna be Hunger Pains and Midnight Channel
by Tara Devlin and Javier Luna, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tara and Javier, and let me tell you something. We have Midnight Channel first. It's kind of it's creepy and it'll kind of leave you unsettled. Hunger Pains. If you stick with it, it's definitely interesting. Just think of Hot Pockets when you watch it, and you're good.
Again with the Hot Pockets.
Sorry, I want somebody to think Hot Pockets and be like, "Wow!" It's gonna be. Just you'll never eat Hot Pockets again.
Yeah, now it's going to be stuck in our heads. Thank you.
Right.
Hot Pockets. But, and then if you're a patron, you also get Gemma Moore's.
No, fix me. Gemma Moore's the next. Oh yeah, I'm gonna shut up. You're right.
you get Gemma's.
I'm thinking of a different thing.
Yeah, Cell Block B, which will be in 2 weeks to release, but patrons get to hear it a week ahead. So you'll have, if you're a patron, you'll get that plus that's really 2 stories in one. So you end up getting about 4 releases with that. And we also have a very special Warden thing for the 2-in-1 release as well. So, which again has a bunch of people in here, and it's going to be hopefully a lot of fun. I really want to hear that music that JM made for it.
I'll put it up. I'll give it to you.
Nice.
Plus he scored Midnight Channel. I'll put that over too. It's really good.
Nice.
Friggin' creepy, man. It's just so creepy. It's super disturbing. But then the week after that, if you're a patron, you will receive another bonus story.
Yeah.
Which is a Fix Me by Lachlan Watt, which has Sarah Ruth Thomas and Aaron Lillis and Graham Rowett in it. So it's a great story.
So if you're a patron, you get like 1 billion episodes within February, by the end of it. It's, this was our month that is just insane. It really is. But what happened was we had some more stories from the contest that we really wanted to produce. And, we just thought, wow, it was Jason's idea. He wanted to say, hey, let's put 2 more of these in together, like a back-to-back thing. And I just can't wait. I mean, I think this is going to be a really fun kind of little extra that we're throwing to all of our listeners. And I don't know what to do.
It's kind of, the way I looked at it is kind of like an off week thank you to everybody who's been listening, because this is mid-season. We have now hit the middle episode of the season and the regular stories, and this is a double feature from, again, like Brian said, stuff that we both read. And I know that there were some stories where it's like, man, this is really good. Like, too bad we can't use it. Aha. And so we decided, I was like, no, man, let's just do it. Let's just give them a double feature at the 6th story mark. Say thank you, keep listening, and there's going to be no patron release on that. It's all going to be released to the public in the exact same day. And I also am really excited to see this. Just a teaser on it. Brian wrote a masterpiece, and I agree with you, Brian. I think this is going to be one of my favorite Warden skits to date, because just the scale, and it's funny, the characters, and it's gonna be
hard to top that Halloween episode. That Halloween episode was epic. Who gives out a power drill? That was great.
Just wait to hear this. I promise you're gonna be happy. But then you got Fix Me and all that. Yeah, and everything's coming together good. I mean, shoot, we're knocking on the door of 85,000 downloads, and
nice.
That's everything to do with all the behind the scenes stuff, the great voice actors, and not to mention our patrons and all of you, everybody out there who's listening, watching, or will be watching or listening later. You everything. You are the reason why this is being done, because I personally have fun creating the stories and getting to know these wonderful, exceptionally talented people. But ultimately, I really love knowing that you like what we do. It's fun. It's a lot of fun seeing people say, OMFG, GTFO, did you hear that song? Or how many mangoes did he kill to get that sound effect? Did he use a spoon, or was it just a ball peen? What was that? Yeah. There's a little hint right there on Hunger Pains.
Fair enough.
Lots of squishy. That's it.
I know
usually say thank you to everybody.
Yeah, usually we cycle through and tell people kind of what we're up to and what we're doing. For me, I've just been keeping my blog updated on arthurunk.com. I'm in the middle of a writing series right now for new writers, especially new writers on Twitter. So you can follow that at arthurunk.com. You can follow me on Arthur Unk Tweets. I'm the host for a very popular word prompt this month. If you ever heard of hashtag VSS365, stands for very short story, 365 days a year. The host rotates monthly. This month, I got picked to be the host for February, and I've been putting out some really interesting words every day that people go in and just write a short little micro story with that in it. So check out hashtag VSS365. I'm doing the post this month. And lastly, horrortree.com. Can't shout them out enough. I think they'd be good partners with the Grey Room. I got to get Stuart and you guys in connection with each other, because I think it would be a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Or hell.
Excellent. Does he like whiskey?
Absolutely.
Okay. No, and I will entertain the idea.
And also, are going to be working on stories for season 2.
Season 2.
And I'm working on stories for season 2.
Maybe
Rainforestation Foxtrot.
I like that one. But he said stories.
Yes, I said stories. I got at least 4 that are in various stages of completion.
It's like Mortal Kombat. Finish that.
It's gonna come in one big email. It's just gonna be like blah. Probably all 4 are gonna be written in 10 hours, probably.
Let's
or less.
Hey David, what kind of projects you have coming up?
Say again?
What kind of projects do you have coming up?
Oh, yeah. So we do a bi-weekly release of our role-playing game. We do, my kids and I, Magic and Steel. And you can find everything for me at Steel Empire, STEELE, empire.com. But I am heavily working on season 2 of my audio drama. It's Arc City, ARKCITY. Season 1 is out there. They're short episodes. They're about between 8 and 15 minutes long. There's about 10 of them in season 1. And then season 2, which Graham is in, and a bunch of other amazing voice actors. Season 2, I'm heavily working on. As Jason knows, it's a lot of work, doing all that sound and putting all those voices together and just getting the right feel. So I'm excited about that too.
I definitely feel you, David.
I know you do.
Bourbon.
Jason, what kind of projects are you working on?
I'm on vacation, so I'm just working on the Grey Rooms because I got to release it Friday. It's a weekly thing, man. Every time I'm always working on something. So yeah, no, that's it. And then that's it. Grey Rooms.
That's all we ask of you. Get the mail to our house on time. Get me my Amazon packages and do the Grey Room.
That's right.
I don't want to do your packages. Go to the store.
If you look at Mike's behind him, he's got an Amazon package right behind him there. So
yeah, that's true. I do.
Back, Mike. You better be nice to him.
I will.
No,
I will. I promise.
They always tell us you're a toss, our loss. So don't worry about it. You're fine.
Oh, hey, Brian. I believe Christina's blowing you up in the chat. Just FYI.
Yeah, she's got all kinds of. I don't know. What did you want to ask, Christina? If you do that, if you ask one question real quick, I'll answer it.
No, I locked the door.
Well, yeah, she wanted me to write more screenplays, I think. I don't know. Mike, what kind of projects you have going up?
Well, I still have it's going on our 4th anniversary, the Steamrollers Adventure podcast, which is a steampunk role-playing game that's loosely kind of like D&D, but I add a lot of sound effects, and in some case, we have our own miniature voice actors guild. So anybody who wants to get into voice acting and try things, I'm I'm sending out scripts for background sounds like news criers, things like that, and music. But the biggest project coming up is in the audio drama realm, and that is Copperheart, which is it's an altered reality where we're in the midst of a nuclear winter, and we're with a band of survivalists, civilian scientists and military, and they're in what's known as the United States Reconstruction Bunker that happens to be at Area 51. So anybody who knows the lore of Area 51, aliens and whatnot, knows that there's a lot going on with that. So anyway, I feel you with the music and the sound effects and the script writing, and I do all of that myself. And I couldn't be happier to have people like, you know, Graham and Sarah Ruth and Victoria and countless others. Like I said earlier, my initial concept of the story was going to have basically 7 people. That blew up to 25 because they're just so awesome. And I got to the part where I couldn't say no to anybody, so I'm creating roles. And speaking of which, just and you guys get to hear it here first. Copperheart I just put out a request for a role. Sarah Ruth plays the voice of Iris, which is a computer artificial intelligence. I needed a male counterpart to that from a different location, and that honor went to David Steele.
Yeah, all right, there you go. Excellent. So do a great job.
Yes.
Yeah,
do a great job.
Had a lot of great auditions, and he stood out like perfectly.
Right?
So.
Right, yeah.
I'm sorry,
he does a great
Dave.
job.
I can't do that.
Exactly. That's what I said I was looking for. I want Hell 9000, but not.
Yeah.
And he was perfectly Hell 9000, but not. So yeah.
Also, you guys will be hearing Mike in the Gray Rooms release this Friday, and David.
Yep.
Which, by the way, you did a great job, Mike, if I may say so myself.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really gotten into voice acting, but you know, when Graham hit me up with that, and I saw what it was, I'm like, oh yeah, I have to.
Yeah, you did a good job. Just so you know, you took me way back to, like, you know, some late night stuff, man. It was good stuff. Yeah, you did a really good job.
And yeah, just so you know, the voice that I used, my wife calls that the douchebag voice, and she hates when I do that, but it's a lot of fun. But yeah, so.
And that's the one I get to act real stupid, right? Is that one?
Wait. Oh yes, yeah.
Just wait. It's kind of weird to be able to say that as a horror podcast. We have comedy gold coming.
Yeah. Well, you know, I will say, I remember what comedian was it? He said that anybody can. Why is it that everybody can do an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression? I will say that David. You know, in my head, I was thinking like Macho Man. Like, oh yeah. When I heard David though as Arnold, I was like, wait, what? Arnold? You know, I was like, oh, wait, this is great. So you know, I was really happy about it. Yeah, it was another funny thing, and I'm not going to say anything about the story, but Alistair Mackey has been, you know, a part of us as well. He did the professor in the arachnophobia story. You know, we introduced him when he like kind of hit a button, and then he starts talking about the spiders. And he's also going to be in that Certain Man as the narrator. And it's funny is I guess the direction was like when you listen to it, you'll understand. But the direction he was given was to do his part like Clint Eastwood. And it was like, and I'm like expecting something totally different again, and I hear this, and I'm like, that is so creepy.
Yeah, it was creepy. Yeah.
Like, and I just started thinking, man, we got to start mixing it up. Like, just give like the complete opposite of what it's written, and we'll get something totally terrifying for a podcast.
Cool.
But
That's
it was
awesome.
funny.
And he's Scottish, isn't he? He's Scottish.
Yeah, he's Scottish.
What a freaking American accent he pulled off, dude. I was like, is this guy sounds like my neighbor.
Yeah, he did a Southern accent, all kinds of accents to try it out. He's an interesting guy, but it was funny because, you know, when I actually kind of got a hold of him and said what I really was looking for when I had written that part, he's like, "You got the Scottish guy to do this?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Write me a Scottish character." I was like, it was great. We had it's just so fun. The nice thing, Mike Rigg talked about it. I was talking to David about it before we started this thing up, and it's the podcasting community in general. It is by far just amazing. There's no competition.
No,
there's nothing like that. It's, oh, you're working on something similar. That's great. Can I help? You know, when you do anything, you know, it's everybody. And I don't know if it's because it's sort of like kind of like an indie thing, like we're all in this together, or what it is, but it's amazing. I mean, the fact that I didn't know, you know, David, I haven't really spoken to him much, but you know, all of a sudden, now I'm sending him some emails and talking to him. Now he's in our show and, you know, all this stuff. And Mike Rigg, you know, we had made like a little trailer for his, and now he's hosting and he's in our show. It's like everybody is in this, and it's fantastic.
I gotta say something to what you just said, Brian. One of the things that I'm doing in Copperheart, since all of the actors have other things that they're doing, and I can't pay them, and they knew that going into it, so I'm like blown away by the generosity for them. But part of the payback is Easter eggs, and I'll tell you one. There is a scene with Graham Rowett's character where he is introduced to his quarters in this underground bunker at Area 51. And the person showing him around the room said there's like fake curtains there with light behind it to make it seem like you can look outside. And he's, why would you do something like that? And there was a line in there, something about, well, you wouldn't want to be trapped in a gray room, would you? So that's hat tip to you guys. So,
that's awesome.
Little something to give back.
Not to crash the party again, but Mama Bear just sent me a text, and it's bad magic to be happening, so this might turn into another channel.
Wait, is this Smith or is this?
Yeah, that's where I was right there. I was like,
the real Mama Bear. I'm in the den.
Again, yeah, says the guy with the red hood again.
Yeah.
What beautiful eyes you have.
What
nice football pants you're wearing.
By the way, I am not, you know, you said you should write like who you are. I'm not that.
That's what I thought when I heard that one, the wolf one.
You have your story, we have ours.
Sure, right. Right.
Get them.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It was just too good. There was so much truth to it. I know.
You haven't shown us what your basement looks like, so jury's still out.
Hey, I might have a wig, but that's about it. You know, I will say he's right. There are things that I dealt with in life that I had that kind of attributed to me writing a story like that. So when you live in a situation and dark things happen in your life, you definitely find some way to incorporate that into a story.
Written more profiles, it says I turn intrusive thoughts into stories.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
As always, gentlemen, it's again an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to working with all of you for much time to come. I think season one's been a growing experience, not just for myself, but I think for the core, all of us. You know, we're still trying to figure things out, and we appreciate, like Mike said, the generosity of all of you. Knowing that, you know, this is out of my pocket. It's not bottomless, so I appreciate your donations and your stories, your professional acting. It's all going to come back. I can promise you that, because I'll tell you something right now. all of this coming together, you don't get the 85,000 downloads just by Pip farting on a snare drum.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
I'm guessing that's one of his sound effects.
Nobody knows the movie Airheads. No, okay.
Brendan Fraser and a bunch of
there's a part in there where Ben Sandler's character his name is Pip, and they're like Pip farting on a snare drum, and he's like, I'm not farting on a snare drum. But anyways, so that's it. I'm leaving it at that. Good night.
All right, I'm stopping the broadcast now.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Anybody
Thanks,
want to say
Bye.
No.
Was the snare drum wet? Was the snare drum wet?
Ew.
Oh,
You didn't cut it.
Hot Pockets. Hot Pockets.
I'm not cutting it now. It's interesting. All right, guys. We'll see you. Have a great one. Thanks for listening to us. And by the way, Raymond is now